Hello, welcome back. I hope everyone had a great week. We are live. You know us. Michelle, no, this way. Jennifer below me, and over to the side is Melissa. Welcome to the Groomers Cut, and we are the Pet Pro professionals. What are we? The Pet Pro educators. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Above me going, are we professional or not? What's going on here? So first time viewers, welcome to the show. Oh, Jennifer, we can't hear you. And just give Facebook permission there when you go, depending on where you're at. We are live on 8 different platforms. So give Facebook permission there so that we can see your name in the comments. You may not see everyone's name. You may not see all the comments coming in. So we will try to keep up with them and say so that you follow along with the conversations, because we're going to see them all in our chat. But
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. So welcome everyone. Oh my gosh, we have a long show tonight. We've got a lot to catch up on. So first off, we're going to go with the Master Groomers and how that voting went. Then we're going to jump into Miss Jennifer, because we need to wrap up your working breeds from the coats last month.
Yeah.
And then we're going to start into the felines. So we'll just go right around the clock there. Take it away, Michelle.
All right. So we had our first vote for verbiage for the best practices of the Master Groomer Council of Best Practices. And it was grueling at times, but we absolutely did it.
Lots of discussion.
Yes, and we are very serious about putting forth the best verbiage. So even at that moment, there were times when we rejected some information to talk about later, but we do have edition 1, and it will hopefully be in printable form or orderable form by August 1st. So I am still editing, and we still have a couple more meetings to have, because we really do want to include some feline, and also there were some other etiquette and how to act in a grooming salon type verbiage that we wanted to include also for Mary Quendo. And so we will be talking about that. We may slip that in if we can agree on all those things. If not, we have a really good start. So I am very pleased it came together, and it's actually happening.
Your vision, Michelle, your vision. I mean, what an amazing tool for our industry this is going to be, to actually have a thoroughly vetted, thoroughly discussed, thoroughly researched, and not coming from a product manufacturer, not coming from a vet, not coming from outside our community, but coming from within our profession, where we have vetted the science, we have debated the issues, thoroughly discussed them, and to have it in writing what this council of very diverse groomers from across the country knows to be and have found to be best practices in our industry. This is very unprecedented, and it was your idea, Michelle, and you get all the kudos.
All the kudos. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a groomer last night that is in New Zealand, and they can't wait. They've been following the posts and everything, and they're super excited. And her sister lives in the UK, is also a groomer, and she's part of a large UK grooming group. And they said the same thing, that they cannot wait, because there's nothing like this.
Well, I'm going to insert here also, I would like to invite every groomer, even if you don't live in the USA, no matter where you live, if you groom, you can join the Master Groomer Council of Best Practices.
Yeah,
this is for everyone. This is for everyone.
I told them.
Yes, so please do, and you can find the application on the Facebook page of the Pet Pro Educators. The application is there in files. So
in the Facebook group,
correct,
for the Pet Pro Educators, right?
Correct. Yes, and after you fill out your application and everything is sound, then absolutely you will be invited then to the private group, and you'll know about the meetings, and you'll be able to talk amongst the council itself. And of course, as always, if you have achieved master status, you get voting rights on the verbiage. So, yeah, please join us. Join us. Even if you don't like the idea of best practices, join us and tell us why. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your voice.
Kim, she's talking about the Master Groomers Council. Kim just asked, she just jumped on. What were you discussing? So we're doing a recap of the Master Groomer Council our voting meeting that we had.
So yeah, so basically
we lost Sarah.
Oh, I'm sure she'll be back.
Yeah, she'll be back.
I think it's important for everybody to know that the discussion, there's no, like if you're not a master groomer, if you're just there she goes.
Sorry.
We're glad you're still there. If you are not a master groomer, you can still, the discussion is everybody discusses. Everybody brings information. Everybody, the only difference is that only the master groomers vote.
Right.
But it's been an amazing process. Really high level discussion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that it is a scholarly discussion, and that's something that we really don't have in the industry as of yet, but we are creating that. I've created a space where you can have a scholarly discussion on things that we disagree with. It's fine to disagree. It is not fine to not be able to discuss them. So we do have an open forum, and we do have rules. We follow the Oxford definition of debate rules in order to get your point across. So there's not really any arguing. There's simply a presentation of the information, and then we all talk about it, talk about if we want to include it on the voting docket, and then we move forward. So, I mean, it's really unique. It's really interesting to see these groomers learn how to communicate in this way if they don't already know how. It is a definite difference of communication rather than just in a Facebook group or something of that nature.
Yes.
So,
it was a robust discussion, substantive, robust, and I was amazed at how much agreement there was. Mm-hmm. Like it was encouraging for me to hear that, the issues that are, part of it you could kind of call old school versus, new science, things that are still widely defended by many groomers. It was really, really amazing to see how much everybody is starting to understand that you don't do some of these old school things because there's new scientific information about why you don't. And I think it's just been an amazing process.
What I love is that there are some old school things that now are corroborated with science, and we continue to do them because they're best practices.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there is value in all that old information. There's value there. It's up to you to find the pearl in that value. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
That was very, very lively discussion for sure.
So thanks. And Michelle, where it's going to be published, it's going to be...
So we're going to have a, what is it called? Oh, I always forget what it's named. There's a name for it, but it's as they order it, it gets printed. And it will be available through Amazon. I'm having it published through Amazon in a digital form and also in a printed form that gets sent to you, and you can touch it and open it and highlight it and burn it if you hate it, whatever you want to do with it at that point. So,
but it's kind of like
buy the piece. It's out there.
It's printed like piecemeal, like one at a time when you order it.
Yes, it's a print to order.
Print to order.
Yeah.
So just wondering, are we going to be able to have some of these printed off so that when we're at the expos, they can be being handed out as well?
Sure, we can do that. I don't see a problem with that. Or we can have some examples and then they can order from Amazon themselves.
I mean, what if people know that they're coming to, I'm assuming that there would be a small printing cost only to print it off, and it would be it's not a for-profit venture. It's just correct. The cost of the printing.
Yeah, it'll be under $10. and that just covers all the costs having to do the actual publishing. And any overflow is actually going to go back into the council so that we can continue to have that money to pay for publishing, better logos, things like that, just to make it make it real. A website.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness, yes. So
Yeah.
so all of those things are in the works, but we're making the council pay for itself. And so any monies that get taken in are then distributed out. No one gets a paycheck. No one gets paid. Perhaps someone may get reimbursed if they purchase something for the counselor for use, but that's pretty much it. It is not for profit at all. It is a labor of love from all of us.
Kim is asking if she'll be able to buy it in Atlanta.
Hopefully it will be buyable by August 1st. So whenever Atlanta is, I'm hoping that.
No, Atlanta's coming up in the
month.
next, couple more weeks. So, a few more weeks. So, no. But
Yeah,
it
she
is
was
a true canon of collaboration. Everybody is pitching in and writing these different sections, and which is that I just love. I just think that that's just so amazing that we have. Bobby did a ton of work.
Yeah, Bobby did.
Bobby
was the secretary, and she assembled the information for voting.
Yes.
I'll be doing the editing, but I cannot overlook the people who have donated their knowledge and their education to the cause. So, I got a little bit from everybody. Jennifer kindly donated the skeleton of her 15 coat types so that the client and the groomer just coming in can open up this book and be on the same page about coat type. So, all of these things are necessary. If clients don't know how to ask the questions or what questions to ask, how do we know how to serve them better? But if we're all on the same page and the clients understand, okay, this is the Master Council of Best Practices, this is what they say I'm supposed to look for, then they'll ask better questions of you. They won't expect you to do certain things because it's in the book.
Kim is asking if she can donate to the cause because that's how she loves the idea. That's great.
Absolutely, sure, absolutely. We will put it to good use, and any donations will be listed once we get a website. So we're going to have donors if you want to donate, and we'll tell you exactly. We're going to be transparent with the money and make sure that everybody understands where that money, how much we took in, where it went, how much is left over, and what it's going for. So
I'm sure primarily to a website. That would be really
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Yeah. So we're hoping to roll out a website of some sort. We've had a couple of people excited to donate their time to design that website. So I have it. I have the domain, but I just don't have the time yet or the energy. So we have somebody that's going to come in and probably handle that. So that will be
Kim
amazing.
at the Facebook group for the Pet Pro Educators. Okay.
Yeah, I think she's asking where to donate to.
Oh.
Gosh, I don't even know.
How to do
that.
That
wasn't even a question before. So
let's
maybe on PayPal.
I was going to say let's set up a PayPal email. Do you have an email address, Michelle, for MGCBP?
No, because I haven't set up the website yet.
Okay,
but I do have the domain.
Let's set up for, we'll Kim, I'll let
Tell
you know.
Kim tell her to hang on to her donation until we have all the puzzle pieces in place.
Yeah, probably we're going to have an email address, something like mgcbp@gmail.com, something like that.
Yeah.
And we'll set that up as a PayPal account, but we haven't done it yet. So thank you for the suggestion. Great idea. Very lovely. And if I can say one thing about what will be available may I plug something?
Please.
At both Atlanta and at PetQuest in Ohio very soon, like in 2 weeks. Oh, I got a lot to do. I'm going to have a laminated poster chart with detailed explanation of relationships of the 15 coat types because due to my mother being in hospice and moving in with me, which I have posted in my Groomers Guide group about the details of the pressures in my life right now. The book is not going to be available for several more months, but in order to meet the many requests for people to have some sort of notes, reminders, summaries of, the 15 coat types and what to do with each of them and what their relationship is to all the aesthetic things that Michelle talks about, and that Melissa talks about all of these, is it, what kinds of things does the coat need, all that sort of stuff. It's all on there in a summary form, in a poster, in a laminated form, and that will be available at both Pet Quest and in Atlanta, and therefore any show after that. I'm also going to be briefly at Groom Expo West, which I'm so excited we're going to all be together, right? Aren't we all going to Groom Expo West? No, Groom Expo West. Aren't we all going to
Pasadena?
Be there?
No, I'm not. The only show I'm going to this year is Dallas.
Oh, I'm excited we're all going to be together in Dallas.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, because I won't be able to go to Intergroom because it's the same weekend. So
right.
Yeah.
And
otherwise, I would have done
in Pasadena. I'm speaking in Pasadena also.
Oh, yay, Melissa. Yeah. That's good.
So depending on, I'm not sure about Hershey, but.
And Kim, I will have within 2 weeks or so, I will have the poster available at groomersguide.com as well. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for letting me plug that.
No problem. All right. So how about the herding group? Because we really
my favorite subject. I have to pull out my prop.
All right. Where's his coat?
He's made of clay, but it's there, sort of. This is the breed that I got started with, German Shepherds. The herding group is my absolute favorite group, and we're talking about just the proper coat care that goes with it. And of course, there's diverse coat types, but all of the herding and working group dogs, the dominant coat type, not every breed in the group, but all the AKC group herding group dogs and working group dogs are primarily double-coated dogs. In fact, all of the dogs in the world, 3/4 or more of the dogs in the world are double-coated dogs, meaning that they're either, like the street dogs that live in villages, around the world, or which are short to medium double coats, or they're like the dogs that are more like coyotes and jackals and dingoes and wolves in the wild that have a bigger, thicker coat. But almost all of them have that weather-resistant, multi-seasonal, self-care, outdoor-friendly coat, which is it's a fur-type coat, and it sheds, especially big, twice a year, and is never to be clipped. The only exception to clippering double-coated dogs, well, actually, you're not going to have any exceptions to clippering double-coated dogs, but if it's a Newfoundland or something with it's what we call, in my 15 coat types, a long double coat. Newfoundlands, sometimes Bernese Mountain Dogs, collies, big rough collies. There is times that you can just tip the dead ends of like under the skirt and the furnishings and around the feet and so on. But the herding group also has some really interesting combination type coats, like the Berger Picard, which has a sort of a natural coat, sort of wiry, sort of like a double coat. All you do is comb and brush it. You literally don't do anything else to it. You bathe, blow dry, condition, blow dry, brush out, comb and brush, do the pads and the nails, the sanitary areas, but you are to hand strip the ears. They have those big prick, kind of like a German Shepherd, big prick ears. And another example would be the Bouvier de Flanders, which is a really unique coat. It is a long double coat, but it's also wiry, and it's also like hair, like a long coat can be cut. So there are some exceptions in there, and there's some interesting combination coats. The Pumi, Pumi, herding group dog from Hungary, has the most totally unique coat. If you've never been to a dog show, if you've never felt a Pumi, go to a dog show and find a Pumi breeder and ask to touch the coat, because it's the most unique coat type of all. It's like these corkscrews, but they're cottony and sort of double coated too. It's it's complete. It feels different than any other coat. It's very interesting. And then you have some corded breeds. You have the Puli can be shown corded or not, if you want. So there's really interesting other coats in the herding group, but they're almost all designed to be very protective of weather outside as a working dog. And primary job with a dog like a German Shepherd or, an Australian Shepherd or an Australian cattle dog or anything, knowing that these guys are shedding, the biggest problem that we're having is that people will come in with, a ton of undercoat and say, get rid of this hair, shave my dog. And groomers are doing that. And that's not good because what the most important thing, and really Michelle was the first person to teach me about, the different ways that hair grows. And in a double coat, let's just say that this is the outer guard hairs. This is the top coat, the primary coat. It's the structure of the coat. And then you've got this insulating undercoat underneath it, right? And by definition, this primary guard hairs has to be longer than this insulating undercoat. Otherwise, you have all hell breaking loose, literally. And if you take this away, they grow at different rates, right? So we know that this insulating undercoat comes in, falls out, comes in, falls out, comes in, falls out several times a year. And these hair grow very, very, very slowly. Sometimes they have, with their long dormancy periods, sometimes if they get cut, they don't ever come back or not for a very long time. So the primary hairs have to be protected. So our job, literally the double coat, the word double coat means exactly what it sounds. You have to do one thing to one kind of hair and another thing to another kind of hair. So this insulating undercoat, our job is condition, blow dry, brush out, de-shed it, get it out of there. If it's dead and if it's ready to come out, you have to keep that insulation from knotting. And especially this time of year when we're blowing off the tail end of the winter coat for the summer, a lot of this is coming out. You want to get that out without damaging the structure of the coat and the skeleton of the coat. So our job is to protect top coat and de-shed undercoat in a nutshell, right?
Makes sense.
If you shave clippers, even though you've got these two kinds of coat going on here, right? Clippers will come along and no differentiation. It all goes away. So there's no distinction between how you're going to treat the top coat and how you're going to treat the undercoat. And that's what destroys the coat. Because then the insulating undercoat comes back in a rage, like, explosion, and it tries to be the outer coat, and there's no structure for it to grab onto, and it turns into a huge matted mess, and then you have to keep shaving the dog over and over again, and then you're in a vicious cycle for the rest of the dog's life, and the coat is ruined. So, in a nutshell. Okay.
And it can't be ruined. That's the thing, is that like a lot of groomers will say, oh, it doesn't really ruin the coat.
Oh, yes,
it grows back. But you just explained it does grow back, but it grows back all incorrectly because you've ruined the actual guard hairs.
Yeah. And the guard hairs are called, I like that term, guard hair or top coat. I like the guard hair reference because it does guard the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's a good way to call it. So, any of the herding group dogs, so there are some exceptions, but the vast majority of herding group dogs are either a short, medium, or long double coat, or some sort of a combination of a double coat. So take, for example, the Old English sheepdog. They have a combination of a long coat and a long double coat, and somewhat wiry, they can, depending on the dog. So you actually have to give it a haircut, but you also have to shed out that undercoat. So you really have two jobs to do with that. You have that de-shedding the undercoat job, but you also have to give them a haircut, usually, unless they're a show dog. And, most of us are not grooming those. That's a huge job. I wouldn't groom a show dog, Old English sheepdog if my life depended on it. That is a ton of work, right? I think people that show those guys do it pretty much full time. But the most that you're going to see Australian Shepherds. They're a very popular breed. You're going to see, Belgian sheepdogs. You're going to see various dogs that are mixes of those breeds. A lot of mixed breeds, they'll come in with some sort of a shepherd mix of some sort, or some sort of a collie mix, or some, that kind of a dog is still going to have to be groomed that way. Even if it's a mix, it doesn't have to be a purebred dog to meet the herding group, standards. So if it's got that shiny outer, stronger guard hair that's more weather resistant and an insulating undercoat, then you work on the undercoat and you leave the top coat alone. And I'm sure, Michelle, and Melissa, you can talk about like products and things that you should be using for that coat type.
For the double coated breed, you mean, or for the herding group in general?
Yeah.
There's quite a few different coat types within that group. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
so in general,
it depends
for a double
on what
coat,
you're working.
You're going to be using more minerals. You'll be adding more products with minerals. Maybe Michelle, you could speak to that.
Minerals and proteins. The double coats or the natural coats or the medium coats, there are various coat types within that branch of coat types. However, all of them share the one trait of creating so much coat. They have to create a ton of coat. If you want to make 100 cakes, you're going to need a lot of ingredients. So they need minerals and protein. 74%-ish of the protein that you intake goes towards your skin. Did you know that? That's crazy. It takes a crazy amount to maintain the barrier. So protein shampoo is your friend. There's 3 different kinds of proteins that I like. That's keratin and collagen, and those are filler proteins. They fill in the chinks and make the hair appear smoother on the finish. However, there are placental proteins that I use for therapeutics. So you can get them in capsules, or you can order them. There's only one source of dog shampoo that I know for a fact has the placental protein rather than just a keratin or collagen, and that is Mineral H shampoo of ISB. But that component, that placental protein component, has so many other good nutrients in it. It's one of the best ingredients you can use for allergies, de-shedding, skin health, depletion, whelping. Just so many things can be helped with just a good placental protein shampoo. So that's what I would recommend.
I use the placental protein Mineral H from Yves Saint Bernard. I use that on, like, if a double coat has been shaved and we're trying to regrow the guard hairs, try to give some of that coat, a little bit of what it needs to maybe try to restore itself. And it does take sometimes a year or 2 in that process. But we do have a couple of shaved Pomeranians that we've been working on we do 4 weeks in a row, and then we do monthly for the next year or 2. And then we just keep using those placental proteins and the collagen conditioners. Yeah.
So Tanya asks, which shampoo range would you recommend to use? I'm assuming you're saying what brand? We are a brandless, that sounds so Mad Max. We're a brandless. We want to promote the use of the proper ingredient before brand. So I'm sure everyone here I know uses several different brands, but we're looking for the ingredients in which to do our work. So once you understand the concepts of how to administer to skin that needs help, you will start finding the ingredients remain the same. The ingredients are what's important, not the brand name. So there are brands that I will recommend because there is no crossover to another brand. So I will say, okay, this particular brand does well with that, like the Mineral H shampoo. That's one you can't find. Any other company that I've ever seen that has something that could be comparable to Mineral H shampoo. Another product of theirs, just for an example, would be their PEC collagen conditioners. They have a whole line of them. That's something you just don't see in another brand. So for those particular things, I'm going to say just go right to the horse and get a little bit of the hay. Go ahead and buy that if that's what you're interested in. However, all brands offer something therapeutic that you can use in a therapeutic mindset. mindset, or to bring back a coat, or to make it smooth out, or make it curl better. Or, I mean, there's a ton of others. They all have value, but it's the concepts and application of those ingredients that really means the most to me, in my opinion.
And honestly, the more that we groomers ask the manufacturers, when you have different shampoos and you ask them, what is this best, what kind of coat type is this best for? I have to tell you, a lot of the sales reps of some of the companies, I don't think that they ever get, usually people just walk up and they take a bottle and they sniff it. I think I like that fragrance. I'll buy this. It's, and fragrance is not even good for dogs. It's just what, is marketed to people. It's really important that we not choose our shampoos by fragrance, and that we focus on those ingredients. And we should ask them, does this have mineral content? Does this have proteins? Does this have, you guys, Michelle and Melissa, you especially would know, like, how do you ask those questions of the manufacturer? How do you get the product information?
By contacting the company. That's the only really true way. A lot of their sales reps are only trained to sell to the bottle sniffers, that are just looking strictly at scent. So they're thrown off when you ask those tougher questions, because they're not used to groomers being educated in those areas. So when you say, listen, I do a lot of herding breeds, can you tell me out of, because a lot of these companies have several different lines, with lots of products in them. So if you ask, look, I specialize in drop coats, or I specialize in herding breeds, or I specialize in standout coats. What line works best for those? And now this is strictly my opinion. You guys may disagree with me, but the one size fits all shampoo and conditioner don't work for me.
Yeah. Right.
Unless it's going to be a base for me to start putting my own stuff into.
Mm-hmm.
So, so when they give you that answer and they say, oh, here's this is our main shampoo, and it works on any coat, and it's great for everything. And so you have to be discerning in what you have to be discerning in what you're looking for within that product, but you also have to know the answers to your own questions. So that way, when you do talk to them, the more of us that approach them that way, the more they'll start to better train their their salespeople, their sales team.
And I'm going to pull out another visual aid here. They should all be at least knowledgeable about the three categories that I first learned from the great Michelle Knowles about the category of short, medium, and long, or short, normal, and natural. The normal and natural is all your double coats, all of your the dogs that you would find more in nature, right? And if they don't know that the products need to be geared toward the genetics of those, this medical textbook, this is the Bible for dermatology for dogs and cats and so on, is, it's very clear that there's different things happening with coats that are categorized in this short category, coats that are categorized. So most of your double coated dogs that we're talking about today in the herding group, most of them are in the medium or long category. So if I had a Bouvier or an Old English sheepdog, I'm going to be using something with more moisturizers, right, Michelle? Right, more humectants and emollients, and trying to protect that length of coat. But for most of these double-coated animals, almost all of the dogs in the herding and working group, it's going to be in that medium, normal, natural range from the veterinary definition, and that means that it needs these minerals and it needs these proteins. Yeah. So,
but you also have to understand that dogs. Michelle and I are in Arizona, So if you
Yes.
take that double coated breed and it's an Arizona double coated dog that's, been raised here or is living here, that coat is going to be vastly different than, say, double coated breeds that are in New Hampshire at Dara
Yeah.
Salon.
Yeah, and
that,
in Chicago,
or Chicago, exactly.
yeah, they put on here. They put on a huge undercoat for the wintertime, and then the months of April, May, and June are insane in my shop. The shedding,
Right?
It's just
So
insane. Yeah,
there's so many different facets that you need to consider and to educate yourself about. If you're going to take that leap and really want to be a precise and informed groomer on skin and coat, then you can't just stop at saying, okay, I need a shampoo that has proteins in it.
mm-hmm.
You have to actually look at that, understand the coat types, understand all the breakdowns of it, but then you have to start looking at things like diet, the area, like where this animal is, and lifestyle. A dog that is walked all the time and exercised has a much nicer coat than a dog that is what's the word I'm looking for? Not sentient, but sentient.
Couch sitter.
Potato. And a dog that is fed, a higher end diet is going to have a better coat and skin than a dog that eats, the cheapest kibble that they can, feed.
Sedentary is what you're.
Thank you,
Lisa.
I just did the class on the compassionate touch, and it's all about animals being sentient beings. It's still in my mouth, sentient. So it's more than just that. So if it's more than just a product. It's more than, just tell me what I should buy or what brush I should use, or, it's so much more than that.
I did want to talk about that, though. I do want to talk about tools. Like, what are the tools?
Absolutely. There's specific tools, but you need to look at that animal as an individual.
Right. Now, Tanya was asking, is buying this veterinary dermatology textbook a good idea? I would say not. It's $180. And the only thing that's relevant is page 7 that tells you.
That's not true. That's not true.
I know.
All chapter 1
relevant
is
to this discussion. No, you're right. There's a ton of stuff in chapter 1, but Michelle, honestly, I looked beyond chapter 1 and I just went.
Yeah, it depends on who you are.
Chapter 1,
That's why.
however,
Past
great.
chapter 1, that's why you need to take my esthetician course, and it will explain to you why it's relevant to have a breakdown of all those derm diseases, because you can tailor make a topical treatment to complement any internal medicine, no matter what the dog has, and support that skin. The skin suffers the first. So it is important. Yes, that is a good tome to have on your shelf. Absolutely, because it's an excellent reference.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll see something. Sometimes you'll see something come through your salon that's really wacky, and the owner will know just enough to say that, well, it's not contagious. Well, I want to know what it is, just because my mind is inquiring like that, right? So I flip through that and I find out.
It's very technical. It's very medical. It's written for veterinarians.
However, I think that none of you are stupid. So I think that you can read that book very well. Just because it's technical doesn't mean you can't read it. It means that you're not familiar with that jargon yet, and you will be. And the more familiar you are with it, the more you can read peer-reviewed studies, veterinary articles, and your knowledge will be exponential from there. So yes, familiarize yourself with it.
It's a great book.
It is, but we're an instant gratification generation, and so we want things like, just tell me. I don't want to have to read that. I just want you to tell me what I need to buy.
And to those people, I say, tough. Do the work, do your research, read the book,
you're not going to get it without
study.
Doing the
exactly.
work. Right.
You're not going to benefit if I just butter your bread all the time, and then
Yes.
you just can't butter your own bread. You absolutely have to do the work. I invite you to absolutely do the work.
I think every groomer should have to read chapter 1.
Yeah.
Because that tells you how hair is formed.
Well, I think every
stages.
groomer
It actually
should
covers
know how hair is formed and know at least the baseline information about skin and coat.
Why
Because
puppy
that's
hair
what we work
comes
with.
out one way and then adult hair comes up underneath it, different. And when and how does that happen? And all of that is so important. So then another thing that's really important is the tools that we would use. And it's really, I want to make sure that it's a distinction that not everything that has undercoat is a double coat by the definition that I'm using. I'm trying to standardize the term double coat to mean very specifically dogs like, the German Shepherd that have this clear outer guard hair and the insulating undercoat and that shed out seasonally. Then you have some dogs that have undercoat, but they're not truly a double coat. For example, all your terriers, all the wire-coated terriers, they have undercoat and outer guard hair, but it's not this same shedding relationship where these outer guard hairs have this long, slow life. And the insulating undercoat is what it's all about. A terrier, you got to strip all that out because the hair follicle, whole different things are happening there. So it's important to know that there is a quantitative difference between dogs that have some undercoat. I mean, poodles have some undercoat. There's a ton of undercoat in a Bouvier or in an Old English sheepdog. You have to get that out, but you can also cut them, and it's perfectly okay to do that because it's not a true double coat by the standardized definition. So not everything with undercoat is a double coat. Okay. Is that fair? And then tools, I think one of the things you would want to grooming any of these dogs would be rakes and combs that will target undercoat and not tear or damage top coat. So, big poodle combs that have plenty of space between the tines, rakes that are wide and deep and strong that will reach in and help to get out clumpy undercoat, but that are not going to tear or break top coat. What would not be a good thing would be something like a shedding blade type, furminator type tool, which is not going to distinguish between top coat and undercoat. It's just going to cut and tear everything. So it'll wreck the coat. So what you want is these rakes and combs that will target the undercoat. And Andis makes a really good de-shedder for dogs that are like short to medium double coats. Even the back of a golden retriever, which is a flat, it's a flat coat, but it has that undercoat. You want to get the fuzz out of that as well. So like Andis de-shedders are good for the shorter ones, but for the longer ones, you really have to have almost like a poodle comb or a really good rake. And there's not a really good rake anymore on the market that I have found that really does as good a job as this old one called PS 808, which I don't even know you can get anymore. I actually have a tool and die guy friend of mine that is looking into whether or not we can make a rake that has all of the benefits of a big ergonomic poodle comb, but with a handle on it. And I think that would be, I'm actually working on trying to invent that because I haven't found something, poodle combs, you have to kind of hold like a comb and it's not as ergonomic, right? So anybody else want to say anything about tools that are good to use for those?
I'm good. I was just going to tell you, I just wanted to say, kind of wrap this up. I know you're getting there, just so we have time to jump into Melissa to get her started too for the cats. But
yes. Cats, which are double-coated creatures.
Yeah.
Except Sphinx and Rex.
Yeah, well. Yes. As far as double coats go, I like a slicker and a comb, a metal comb. That is
Yes.
I like a
those are the tools of choice.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into the locking coats of the Arctic breeds, you want a good rake. When you get into the wire coats, rough and broken. Right, correct. Those are the correct terms we're using now. Rough and broken. You do want to maybe invest in some stripping tools, but there are so many on the market. There, you can try them out, hold them in your hand, pick the ones that suit you the best. That's really in a
there are a lot
nutshell.
of good
Yeah.
de-shedding tools. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And it depends on the groomer. You know, some people like one particular tool and other people prefer something else. It has a lot to do with preference as well, I think.
But yeah, you're right. I think the slicker brush, I should have said, goes without saying. You really have to have that. But you know, different slickers are better for different coat types. Like if you've got a German Shepherd type coat, you don't want to use that fabulous, I love it, changed my life, Big G Chris Christensen, because the tines are this long and the German Shepherd coat is this long, you know? So you want to use where the tines are an appropriate length to the coat, right?
Or just have a lighter hand if you have longer.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah,
You
if
can
have
use
the
any
ones with
comb,
longer-
but it's, are you trying to puncture the skin with all the tines, or are you just trying to pick out the hair
Lightly,
like
yes.
you're supposed to lightly? So
And
it just depends.
and that's another thing is that it's all in the flick of the wrist. I just am doing the summer session at the trade school with the students. Today is my first day back, and that was exactly what we talked about, because I'm like, okay, get your slicker brushes out, and I showed them what the slicker was, and I said, start to brush your dog, and every single one of them were, all different types of dogs, all different types of coats, and every single one of them were just pulling that thing through in long stroke, and I was like, stop.
Yeah.
So, it's a tool is designed like those Chris Christensen brushes. That is designed to go into a much denser, deeper coat because of those super long tines. But the tool is designed not to be used like we would think of brushing our hair.
Right.
I've
I'm
trained
gonna say
so
that
many people. Yeah, I've trained so many people on the old Oscar Frank slicker. If any of you are old enough to remember those, and I would give them one, and I said, if you break this, you're too heavy-handed. You're applying too much pressure. So if I could make one of those things last for 5 years, I've done it. So if I can be light-handed enough not break an Oscar Frank, I just don't understand how everybody's breaking these Chris Christensen handles. It's like, what are you doing over there?
And they could actually injure the skin that way.
Yeah.
Here's the last thing I want to say about the herding group dogs, and this has nothing to do with the coat grooming. It has to do with handling a highly intelligent, highly athletic dog.
Yes.
The last thing to know is that the herding group dogs are the most intelligent of all the dogs. And there's actual fascinating stuff about dogs that have, language skills that they've documented. Does anybody know the YouTube videos for Bunny? Bunny is actually a sheepadoodle. She's a sheepdog mix, but she really looks like basically a shaved old English sheepdog. She is the pet of a PhD psychologist who is.
Oh, she's the one that does the buttons.
The floor buttons. She's basically laid out what looks like a carpet with little buttons on it,
like a typewriter on the floor.
And it is, and they each of them have a word, and the location is practiced with mom and the dog. She'll say things like "Bunny, go out," and then he even has a question mark button. This is amazing. And then there was this, one border collie pet of a amazing psychologist who proved that this dog actually learned distinctly 20,000 words, had objects that all had, like he had a gigantic pile the size of my living room full of toys.
Could retrieve each toy and knew exactly that toy. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are super smart dogs, and you have to treat them as such and talk to them. Holy cow.
I'm
Talk
going
to
to
them.
tell you an example of this, and then I'm going to release the floor to Melissa so she can at least begin her intro. We had an example. My husband is completely, totally blind, no light perception. Sometimes he'll go out in the day to the pool area while I'm at work. Well, evidently that's where his workout bench and all that other stuff is. Well, Bunny, our oldest dog, sometimes doesn't move quickly enough. And he had just come in, and I had come home, and I just thought she was in the office with him. He'd closed the gate, and she was behind the gate. However, my tiny little other Chihuahua mix, Tessa, who's not but 4 or 5 pounds, threw a fit and was leading me to the back door saying, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. I'm like, what are you doing? So I opened up the back door, and there's Bunny sitting behind the gate. So they absolutely look out for you. They look out for one another. They're very intelligent. Speak to them as adult dogs. They're adults. They're not babies. They're adults of their species. So
Amen.
I give the floor to Melissa. Give us what you got.
Well,
Baby.
I just want to make sure everybody knows with felines, they tried that and they just spelled out stupid human. So, so you're not getting that from a cat. Very few cats. So,
Cats train us, not vice versa.
Cats have staff. So
yeah, we're the staff.
You know, we are staff. As long as you know your place, you're good to go with them. No, I actually had a beautiful Maine Coon today, and I didn't put her picture up. She was one of the students' cats today, and she was starting to get that matting on that back end because she is getting older and she's not really self-grooming very much anymore. And so we had a big discussion about that and about self-grooming. So I think that was my main gist, was to just give everybody a little bit of what my theory is on that. Okay. So cats are innately, by divine design, created to self-groom. Okay. Now, self-grooming versus human grooming, as a groomer grooming the cat, are vastly different. But they are designed to be able to lick that fur, to ingest it and be disgusting and throw up those hairballs. And they are also designed to be able to process a lot of that debris and stuff through their intestines and pass it. So their tongues are designed with that papillae on it to actually rake through the coat. Those are little keratin barbs on their tongue.
I saw a blow up of that, a microscopic photograph, and it is the coolest thing.
Yes.
Their little sandpaper tongues, they have little hooks.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It reminds me of almost like shark teeth.
Well, they're almost like penguin mouths. If you've ever seen those. Fish are slippery. The whole mouth is like that, though. Their barbs are pointed inward to hold the fish. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, it's so cool.
They're designed to do those types of things, because people will say, well, why do cats lick? Why do they have to try and do that? It's really for them to distribute their saliva with their pheromones and their scent, and to help distribute their natural oils. Mm-hmm. And so when we get the customer that brings the cat to us and says, whether it's a long hair cat or a short hair cat, they want it shaved because I'm allergic. I'm allergic to the hair. They're not allergic to the hair. They're allergic to the proteins in the saliva. That is what causes the allergic reaction. And there are specific proteins that humans have an aversion to, basically. And so a lot of times,
is it like the dander? Because I know
it is.
It's not the hair; it's the dander.
It's that those skin cells, right? But it's mixed with that and those proteins from their saliva that people are allergic to. And so when you see that dander buildup, a lot of times it's because they are either over grooming, over self grooming. A lot of cats will do that, especially when they get old or they're in a stressful situation. So and with cats, a stressful situation could be my neighbor came in the house and talked to me. It's a different person that's in the house that hasn't ever been in. That could throw a cat into days of, doing strange behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
They are extremely regimented animals. And if you own cats, you know this. Like, I wake up pretty much almost the same exact time every morning, anywhere between 4 and 5 a.m. Okay. And my day usually starts pretty early. But I have 2 cats. I have 9 dogs here. Most of them don't really get out of the bed. They might follow me around a little bit, but they're like, Dad's still sleeping, or they don't see me getting the food bowls or anything. Nobody gets excited. As soon as that alarm goes off, both my cats, a short-haired black male named Mr. Black and a long-haired ragdoll flame point mix named Mr. White, start meowing and start coming next to the bed. Now I sit on the side of my bed when I wake up, and I do some Tepotement on myself to wake myself, get my blood moving, and I do a little breathing and stuff. They are livid that I am not moving fast enough to get to where their food dishes are. So much so that usually Black will jump. I have a little gate into my laundry room, and then I have a room for my cats where their food is, their litter box. And if they want to escape the dogs, they can go in there. He literally goes in there and starts hitting the food bowl, and I can hear it hitting the table.
That's great.
He knows that they eat right. When I wake up, that's it. There is no deviation from that.
Mm-hmm.
From that.
I know. We have 2 cats and our 5 dogs too, and literally, if they could do this,
yeah,
it's time. Yeah,
like get a move on, human.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be feeding me. So understand that they are very, very regimented creatures, and they are both predator and prey, which is a very unique situation physiologically and psychologically for them. So just like a prey animal, like a rabbit, has a much faster heartbeat. They actually go into that freeze mode quicker, than most animals.
Yes.
A lot of times in stressful situations, there is, the fight or flight. Well, when you deal with prey animals, they usually will go into that freeze before they go into flight or even fight. They just kind of go into this like some will go into
they become like catatonic.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. And that has to be recognized as extreme stress for that animal.
Right.
And as groomers, a lot of us, as dog groomers, a lot of us want cats and want to interact with them like we would interact with a dog.
And not the case. Yeah, it's totally different groom. Totally different.
It is a completely different species. I actually have a blog post on my Get Groomified site. If you go to my Oily Groomer and you can look up my blog, it'll take you to my other one. And I have a thing on there, a blog post about them. I truly believe they're from another planet. I mean, they are so opposite of what a dog is.
Mm-hmm.
They are the antithesis. And that's why in cartoons, they're always at odds, because people think that they're loners when they really aren't. They are a pack animal, but they hunt alone. They prefer to, do those things alone. They have a very much more structured social society than canines do.
And to groom them requires, to me, I think the first thing I teach my grooming, my cat groomers, I have one person, thank you, one of my new bathers that is very excited to learn cats. It's not about managing the groom or the animal. It's about managing the environment of the groom. So
because they're already out of their element once they come to you.
And it has to be, I do it like early. I do it before work, before the day. They have to come in at 7:45, and I have this bucket of warm water waiting. And you have to also protect their sense of closed in. You can't let their arms and legs go akimbo.
Flail around.
It's completely different. You can't use the same dryers. You can't. Yeah. It's
even muzzling. They can get something called whisker fatigue, which is something that is they've only ever scientifically studied this in only felines get that. But when we muzzle them and we keep that muzzle on, even if it's a big ball muzzle, if those whiskers are being pushed or placed in a not a natural position for them, that will cause, because those whiskers are attached to nerve endings deep down below in the skin and into the muscle that feed the brain. So they're getting these, from their nerves, sending those messages to their brain, and they're being squished in a muzzle.
I think one of the best ways, if I have to confine a cat, is I just take a towel and I do the swaddling thing, like what you would do with a baby.
But you always want to leave that head out.
Leave the head out. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Because I've seen groomers do it, and they're like, no, if you cover the whole face, they don't struggle as much. But actually, in the long run, you're doing more harm than you are doing good. So what happens is they're not understanding that they go into that catatonic state.
And you can also
elevates that stress level. So
if you use what we call the kitty burrito, or the principle of a swaddling, it's the same principle as the thunder shirt.
Burrito, right.
There's actually a word for it. And I know this because I got a weighted blanket to help me sleep better. And, my postmenopausal, I don't sleep well. The weighted blanket, it's because there's a sense called thigmatastic, which means that weight or pressure on us feels good, like a hug. And cats are completely thigmatastic, and if you wrap them in a nice soft towel and just swaddle them like you would a baby, that's very comforting. And then you can take one paw out at a time, kind of reach under and do an armpit or whatever you have to do, and just keep them swaddled the whole time. It's really
if you think of felines, think of them as being autistic.
Absolutely. That's a good analogy, Michelle.
Many autistic children also have it's too much stimuli since their bodies are in tune. They're made to pick up minute pieces of stimuli coming from the environment all the time, and that's overwhelming, especially when they're also being physically touched. I will offer them, if they want to be in a box, we have a box that we put them in, and then just groom them in the box, because you can maneuver them. It's just like a half box, makes them feel safer. And then I will also offer, if they want to hide their head, because some do, they just want to not see what's going on, I offer them, and if they're one of those that like that, then I will cover their faces as well.
And they prefer to be approached from the side instead of a face-to-face, eye-to-eye. That's looked at, again, because they are a prey animal and also a predator. So their brain is trying to distinguish between if you are going to kill them or if they have to kill you.
And it's pretty much one or the other. Right.
Exactly, to them. And so that face-to-face, when you just go like we do with dogs, hey, come here, and grab them and pull them into us, or, face-to-face, to them, those are fighting words. That's like you ever notice somebody, like when you're in an elevator or in a crowded space, and there's always that one person that's like, too much, they're in my personal space. Well, cats have very little like their radius around them is huge.
Their bubble is big.
Yes, their bubble is big, and so they don't like that. So if you can approach them from the sideline and come in from the side, and they have the mindset that if they're not looking at you, that it's not happening. So it can kind of shut off a little bit if you can allow them that space.
And that's why I don't use one of those big open hamster ball muzzles. I use e-collars, which are a big Elizabethan collar that is just, it blocks out the vision of what's going on in the back. I also find that bathing them in those painter buckets that are tall and narrow, as opposed to trying to put them into the tub where arms and legs can go everywhere. They get it, as long as they can feel like they can spring away and that their legs are underneath them, they're much more manageable. They're much safer.
And they like to hold on to things. They like to hold on to the edge of the grooming table. Or I used to groom one that used to want to stand and hold the grooming arm. Yeah. And we used to laugh and be like, you know, she looks like a pole dancer. She wrapped those legs and that tail and just hold that arm. But I could groom her and move an arm away and do it as long as she could hold on. And so it's a huge part of feline grooming is understanding that this animal has a whole different set of requirements than that are different than the canine.
Right.
And there is no I'm going to make you submit to me.
Oh no. When it's over, it's over.
Exactly.
It's over.
Yes, they decide when the groom is over. I always tell my trainees that.
You have to let them do that. I have seen more groomers have cats that go catatonic, that just completely lose it and are urinating and defecating and they're like, oh my God, this cat's just doing it on purpose because it doesn't want to get groomed. No. That is its body system just shutting down.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it is
no, you have to do what you can. And if they say it's over, they say the groom is over, then the groom is over and you just have to tell people, we'll try again in a few days.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that it's not like you can't, once they're at 100, there's no bringing them back down to 0 again.
That's right.
And once they go home, a lot of times then the owners will say, oh my gosh, he hid under the bed for 2 days or
let him.
Yeah. Because they have to, find that method of self-soothing to get themselves back to, some normalcy. So when we take them in, it's upsetting to me because when we take them into these high volume, loud grooming salons and expect to, pull them out of a kennel, their cage, or an owner brings them in, just holding them, and then wants to hand you a cat in the midst of this, chaotic environment, and then we stick them in a tub, a huge tub that smells like dogs. The cat's sense of smell is 10 times what a dog's is. And so they've already picked up on all that fear energy, all that fear scenting in the in that environment, even if it's in a mobile van. And then we stick them in this big giant tub, and then we want to spray them. And it's like
with water.
Yeah, with water, and right?
Soak them up and
that's why I always do the warm soapy painter's buckets and then just gently lower
and
them
so
in,
by doing things like so many, I talk to so many groomers that are like, I want to add cats or I want to start doing cats. I keep reading I can make so much money doing cats, and cats are where you make all the money and blah blah blah. And it's like, my philosophy is money is phenomenal, money is a wonderful thing, but you should never be doing anything just for the money,
especially cat grooming. If you don't love cats, forget all that money that you're not going to make. I'll tell you that much right now.
Because it has to be a labor of love, and it has to be a complete understanding between you and that animal. And by taking
a well-designed grooming salon will have a quiet, separate
area. That's what I was going to say. You need to make sure that you designate feline space. I talked to a groomer, it was several years ago at one of the shows I was at with you, Michelle, and I don't know if you remember this, but they did a lot of cats, and they were using diffusers, essential oils to diffuse in the salon. And
not with cats.
With cats, and it was like a 900 square foot salon, and they had 4 diffusers running at the same time.
And aren't essential oils often toxic to cats?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's overkill even for a dog.
Yeah.
It's the
Or a
overkill
human.
even for a human. Yeah, exactly. So, especially with when you're dealing with felines, less is more.
Mm-hmm.
You would never, ever put direct shampoo that has not been diluted onto a cat.
Right.
Their skin is so much thinner.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just, and I've seen groomers just do it, just.
Well, it's not even a matter of their skin is thinner and straight shampoo. How are you going to get through all that dense coat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to have water as a vehicle. So you have to have a really thin gruel of shampoo
I put a
and
little bit of
conditioner.
shampoo inside a painter's bucket and about halfway full of water and just set them down inside of it. And it's all diluted and just, as you say, just soaks them in water. It's amazing. And they really need that hydration. Yeah.
Their coat is extremely porous also. So it is a different design than most canine coats. It's very similar to rabbit hair. It is barbed in nature. So that's why it sticks to everything.
Yep.
And they're not meant to be wet.
Nope. They're not.
They're not meant to be wet. However, since we have...
You kennel dry them, they go into a complete ball and they stay completely wet.
Yeah. They're meant to stay dry. However, since we have bred them into so many variations, they're no longer a natural coated animal like
especially
a
not
tiger.
Yeah.
Right, a tiger or a lion is a natural tight tufted coat. If you've ever had the opportunity to touch one, it is very soft. It's like a cat fur, but it's more like an Akita. Like it's super dense and super tufted, but that's a natural feline coat. So all of the Persians and the Himalayans and all these different variations now that we have of these cats, they're no longer natural.
And then you add in the different color variations, and that also affects the coat. So
if they're living in your environment, they're getting just as dirty as you're getting. That's why you shower, or as dirty as your dog is getting because it's laying on the ground. So that I would no more expect a cat to lick off toxins off of it that I would. If you don't lick your cat off, why should your cat lick its own self off? Yes, it self-grooms. Yes, it does that for psychological purposes, as well as to align the fur properly along the body. It's self-soothing. However, it should not be allowed to lick dirt and toxins off and ingest that, throughout its whole entire life. You're going to have a healthier cat, a more longer-lived cat, if you take care of that coat, of their coat needs, and bathe them on a regular basis.
But some cats just are not good candidates for what I call deep water bath. Where sometimes, like the Maine Coon we had today, we did a table bath because she cannot be submerged in water. She cannot be sprayed in anything, so we had to fill a small basin, warm soapy water, a little shampoo. And then we put the towels down, took the washcloths, and she was perfectly fine with us wiping her down like that. And then, having the warm water wiped down to get the residue of the shampoo. That's why we, barely use very much shampoo and then comb through that wet, damp coat, clean that up. Not every cat is going to be a good candidate for grooming, especially if it's an outdoor cat or a feral cat.
Or if it is elderly. If the least amount of fat that is on a cat, or a dog for that matter, or any creature, the thinner they are, the bonier they are, the less likely it is that you're going to want to get them wet because they have no subcutaneous fat tissue to keep them warm when they're wet. So if they're elderly or they're bony, you would be better served to give them a table bath or a dry bath than getting them completely wet soaking. That's doing them a disservice. They can get very ill from being too cold, and they can get very ill from being too hot.
Hot, yeah. They can get hyperthermia or hypothermia, and it's no joke. It could go.
Right.
It could switch that quickly. That's why we never want to kennel dry cats, because either they're going to get too hot or too cold too quickly. So, and you should also know that most felines suffer from some form of, or I should say, some level of dehydration, because cats are designed, again, to receive most of their moisture from their food, from their fresh kill. You know, they're hunters. That's why also they have all that papillae on their tongue, because it's created to also rip the muscle tissue and sinew and stuff off the bones to clean that bone up well. And so when we feed them strictly a kibble diet, they are reduced to having to get their moisture from that and the regular water dish, which cats are generally not big drinkers. You know, and if they are going to drink, they like what they would consider fresh water, like from a fountain kind of.
They like moving water, yeah.
Yes, moving water. It's just a natural thing for them to look to that. So that's why it's also important that when you start working with felines, that you understand that they have very thin skin. If they are already thin-skinned and they are elderly or infirm and bony, and they're already in a state of dehydration, you have a recipe there for a lot of things to go wrong.
Right.
So you need to make sure that you're aware and you're educated, so you can educate the owner and tell them why you should not have to shave, put the cat in a lion clip just because the owner says they're allergic to the fur. When you can tell them, you know what, we can do a bath and comb them out and get the dander off and the saliva, that's what you're allergic to. You're not allergic to the fur. So the other thing I wanted to make sure that we touched on tonight was the fact that they usually by the age of 5 years old, depending on the breed, they suffer from some form of degenerative joint disease, mostly arthritis. But there are other degenerative joint diseases in felines, such as the Scottish folds, the ones with the cute little folded over ears.
They're so pretty.
Those cute little round heads. They're adorable. But that is the most horrible thing, is that they do not create enough collagen to produce enough connective tissue. And so what happens is, in their joints, where all the connective tissue holds those joints together, they don't produce enough of it. It's a genetic mutation to make those ears fold over, but it also ruins their joints, and they will become paralyzed as they get older.
Wow.
Yeah. And
did not know that.
Yes, it's very, very common with that particular breed. And in Europe, they are trying to curtail the breeding of them, or at least do something what they call a mixed litter, where you get some with the folded over ear and you get some with the upright ear, so that you're reintroducing that gene that will produce that collagen again and try and re-strengthen these genetic bloodlines. Most of the time on non-Scottish fold cats, you're going to see those degenerative issues at the base of the tail, like where that tail starts, right in there, which you'll notice when you are brushing or even petting. Sometimes you'll pet and you'll get down near that area of that tail, that base area, and they may, turn, hiss, swat at you, that kind of stuff, because it
stand up and walk away like my cat does.
Yeah, but it's usually really painful in there for them. And the other one is, you'll see cats that don't want to jump up anymore. You'll see them be way more gingerly, like instead of them jumping up on your kitchen counter and then jumping onto the floor, they'll look for another way to get down, or try and slide themselves down off of something, because their joints can't handle that not friction, but that pressure, that gravitational pull when they hit. So, and because they use that tail as a rudder, it affects their balance and all that. When they get that bad arthritis in there, sometimes they'll start to walk all cattywampus because they cannot keep that tail to balance the body. So they have a lot of, and it just hurts. So they have a lot of issues that dogs don't particularly have, or they have it worse than canines do. Like canines will get hip dysplasia, whereas felines generally don't get hip dysplasia, but they have that degenerative joint, and so they may have that in their hips, where they don't have that connective tissue and especially when they're dehydrated, the skin can't, the body can't produce those that soft tissue, enough of that soft tissue, or keep it supple enough, or keep that synovial fluid within the joints full and viscous so that they can move. So they are, that was my main thing tonight, was just to want to make sure that everybody understands that it is a completely different species and you cannot approach them like a dog.
They are not small dogs.
No.
Absolutely.
No, and we got a lot more topics for you this month, because we've got, that really covers it, grooming and the groomer. So creating the environment and handling and safety, product selection, which is huge, tool selection, and cross-contamination, which it's a great month.
Yeah. And if you are interested in felines, I'll do a plug. I have the feline class coming up with the Small Mammal Summit. So if you go to my website, I have all the different classes that I do have coming up, as well as with Dara's school. We have the shortened feline one for the holistic arts, the practitioner of holistic arts. And then I have a full program from level 100 through 400, which I should have finished recording soon and get that up. So, there are alternatives out there to the mainstream, get them and wrangle them and shave them backwards naked, school of thought.
That hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are I love cats. My husband says I'm, 49% dogs and 51% cats. But I love them, but they feed the codependent in me, where my dogs are always like, bye, I say anything and they look at me like I'm brilliant, I'm a genius. And then when I look at my cats and say something to them, they look at me like, stupid human,
Idiot.
you idiot, and it's the truth, and that's what endears them to us, and that's what also turns people off from them, because they do things on their own terms. It's one of my favorite pastimes to veg out and watch cat videos on TikTok. For everybody that says, don't do that, don't knock that cup off of the counter, or don't stick your foot. Yep, I know, that's my cat. Or when I'm online, I have to have my door shut because he loves or he loves to come in and walk across my computer screen, especially if I'm doing a video or something, and just show his butt right to the camera.
Yeah, we had that happening at the beginning of the show tonight for me, and I had to somebody get the cat, because he was going to sit right here.
Oh, nice.
Right here.
Yeah, that's exactly where they want to go. And any customer that comes to my home studio that says, oh, what a beautiful cat. Oh, but I'm allergic. The next thing you know, he wants to be on their head. He has to
punishment.
Yes, that's punishment. Yep.
How dare you be allergic to me?
Yes. In all my beautiful glory, you are allergic to this. So, yeah, you cannot have an ego if you want to work with felines.
That's true.
That's true.
They have enough
cannot-
for all of us.
All of us,
Yep.
exactly. So, and we'll cover the other topics as we go along, but if you guys have questions, let us know. We're always happy to address anything that you have in particular that you want to know about. I think all of us do cats. Michelle, I know you do. Dara, I have groomed cats with you. Jennifer, you just said you do cats. So
Yep. We do cats, and if I had a separate room, which if I had it all to design over again, I would do them every day. I actually am doing them. I should say I'm doing them mostly every day, but I'm only allowing them at the first appointment of the morning because I want them early in and quiet when it's still quiet.
Yeah.
So
I used to do
We usually take them over
or end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do them at 2:00 in the afternoon because my salon, and Melissa can attest to this, is stupid. As soon as it opens, it's stupid.
It's like
we are
Dara will
busy.
understand this. Dara, they are like horses at the race gate. At the gate.
Mhm.
You know how they're all lined up. That's what their clients are like. As soon as they're open, the phones are going, the doors going, dogs are coming. It is.
Somebody rings the bell and the ticker tape starts going, and that's the way. It's like, whoa, we got 5 tables rolling.
Yeah. I have to. They come in at 7:45. The shop opens at 8. I've already got the cat out of the tub and wrapped up in their burrito.
So you should designate a specific time to do felines, and it's in your best interest to do them at a time when it is less chaotic, because they just experience the environment very differently than dogs do.
Yep. They do.
Your worst anxiety-ridden dog is nowhere as anxiety-ridden as the cat.
As the best cat.
It's the best cat.
As
You're
the
right,
best cat.
Yeah. So, but we would love to hear questions from you guys as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you to everyone who hung on with us tonight, because you guys had a lot to cover.
Yeah,
we had a lot.
It was a busy one.
Well, we had to skip a Monday because of the holiday. So
that's right.
We had to smush it in.
Yeah, this is a Memorial Day plus. Yeah.
But you 3 had a big Sunday prior to that too, so it worked out.
Well, we're very excited about all 4 of us being together at the Pet Pro Classic in Dallas.
It's going to be so much fun. Oh,
we can talk about that coming forward too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll wrap this evening up. So thank you, ladies, for joining me.
See you all next Monday.
I should be, right, because joining me, I didn't do much tonight. Last few shows, I've been like quiet, but
looks like somebody in your arms is very happy with whatever you're doing.
Yeah, she took a stumble and hurt her back, and we were at the emergency clinic twice. Yeah,
Lisa Herbold. Hello, my friend.
Yep. So she's been needy and clingy the last couple. It's been. I'll tell you after. It's been quite a weekend. So, but yeah.
All right. Well,
thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you everybody for joining us.
Absolutely. And let everybody know, if they're from a different country, please have them contact us and apply for the Council of Best Practices. We are worldwide as much as we can. Whoever wants to join, please join. You are welcome.
Great.
And I posted the link, so.
Perfect.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great week and happy grooming.
Watch our cool end credits. Thanks, courtesy of Dara. Stay and watch our cool end credits.
My mouth.